Valspar Ultra starts at just $29.98 a gallon. So we've got you covered when your daughter wants to paint her room again, after last year's masterpiece of a unicorn mural.
Dad, please.
Or when you realize that maybe you went too hard on the grayish.
I miss color.
Or when you were sure you wanted a home gym, but your elliptical is currently hanging your laundry.
What about a home office?
Shop everything you need for your next phase with Valspar. Available at Lowe's. Price varies by Shein.
Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to my regular Thursday evening broadcast here on the blogtalkradio.com network, and very excited to be here. As most of you may have realized, I actually had a special broadcast yesterday morning as I interviewed Dickie Prosser from Lyle and Scott. He called in from London, and obviously because of the time difference, I gave him a sort of a special broadcast, if you will, just for him. And it was a great show. I hope you have a chance to go in and listen to it. Best way to do that is to go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live and just scroll down to the on-demand section. And you can check out that recorded version from yesterday's show. Hopefully you're going to stick around today, though, because we got a great show for you tonight. I'm going to be joined here by a good friend of mine on the Coach's Corner panel tonight. And then a little bit later on, I'm excited to welcome back a favorite guest, Linda Hartough. She is a world-renowned golf landscape painter, and she's coming back on the show. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things and have a really good conversation. I think you'll enjoy that. Don't forget, we are live every Thursday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And just a couple of program notes. Next week, because of the holiday, obviously I have my other program, Women of Golf. There will not be for the next 2 weeks, actually. Next week, because it's July 4th, and the Tuesday falls right on there, so we decided not to do the broadcast, observing that special holiday. And then the following week, I'm going to be on vacation, so I won't have the Women of Golf or Golf Talk Live. Now, there will be a Golf Talk Live next week, but that'll be the last show for a couple of weeks. So that'll give you an opportunity to scroll down and listen to some of the previously aired shows, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the broadcast. But as I mentioned, I've got a good friend of mine joining me on the Coach's Corner panel. Let me introduce him, and we'll bring him right out and get into tonight's panel discussion. My special guest on the panel tonight is Clint Wright. He's a 30-plus year member of the PGA and one of the partners at TGM Golf. They're a big proponent of the R3 approach, and I certainly consider him to be one of the best covering the short game and definitely a favorite here on Coach's Corner. So please welcome tonight's panelist, Clint Wright. Clint, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ted. I look forward to the conversation tonight. Just the panel's kind of me and you tonight, right?
Yeah, it's you and I. And you know, in a way, I'm kind of glad because I picked a topic that I think will be right up your wheelhouse. I know you're a man of many talents, but I think you like this particular one nonetheless. But and I know that you were mentioning off air you're doing some stuff with Strixon. Tell us a little bit about that. I'll give you an opportunity, and you can do it at the end of the show as well. But you're doing some stuff with them a little bit too.
Yeah, that was just off air, just a conversation. But one of the nice things about where I'm at in career-wise right now is that when I left the last club I was at, the young sales rep asked me what I was doing, and I made a mistake of telling him I didn't have a lot to do. And he said, well, I have something you can do. And I go out now when he schedules me on, maybe once a month, something like twice a month, to a lot of clubs in our area doing demo for Strixon and Cleveland Golf, and particularly club fitting, which in today's world is with the type of equipment that all the manufacturers have out there now that's adjustable and all different shafts. Real important and for your listeners, regardless of what manufacturer they use, to be properly fitted, particularly in their driver. And what's even more important in my case, get fitted for your wedges. It's really, everybody kind of overlooks that idea of getting your wedges fit because there's so many different loft angles and so many bounce degrees. So it's nice to have somebody that's got all of them there at one time with a TrackMan or a Flight Scope or a Garmin, whatever they use, to help you determine which one of those gives you better spin rates and things of that nature. So it's been a lot of fun for me, and thanks for letting me plug that a little bit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And you know, you're exactly right. It is important. A lot of people overlook that aspect. You know, a lot of our amateur golfers go out there and just sort of buy something off the rack and with really no fine tuning. And they get out there, and it may not be the best equipment for them. And a lot of times, it's not always their swing or something else that's causing some of the problems. Sometimes it's the equipment they're playing. And people might think, well, I don't understand. You know, it's got a shaft, it's got a club head, and I'm just hitting the ball down the fairway. What difference does it make? Well, it makes a lot of difference, you know, as you pointed out. We're going to actually get into that on one of these shows a little bit more in depth and really talk about club fitting a little bit more, what people need to know and so on. But tonight, I know that you've talked over the years about college golf, and I thought we'd talk a little bit about college golf recruiting, everything you need to know, and I'm sure there's a lot more things that we'd be able to cover. But I wanted to get your, because I know that you are very familiar with this category, and I thought you'd be a good one to have this conversation. So, as you know now, and part of the reason I want to learn something too, because I've not been involved in this aspect, as you know, and I've mentioned many times in the show. My forte was always more in corporate golf, and I didn't really get into the junior side of things as many others have in our profession. And so it's always very interesting. And, you know, we interview on the Women of Golf on Tuesdays a lot of the Epson Tour winners, of course, some of them fresh out of college. And it's always interesting to hear their journey and their story. So I thought this would be a good thing, especially for some of the listeners out there that got young junior golfers that maybe have expressed an interest in playing. Some of the things that they need to know, what they need to know, and how they need to handle themselves as they prepare for potentially getting on that college golf team, whether male or female. So that's a daunting process, and we want to try to answer some of the frequently asked questions and maybe clarify even a little bit of the NCAA regulations as well. And I've got those are things that you definitely, and again, it's whether you're looking to play college golf or you're a parent or legal guardian helping that soon-to-be college golfer. So how do you, and I want to be specific on these questions because I know it's very easy to jump ahead. So how do you get recruited generally for college golf? What's generally the process? Then we'll get into a little bit more deeper.
Well, you know, since I've been out of the coaching for a few years now, but I actually began coaching at the junior college level back in the late 80s. And the one thing I think people need to keep in mind is the landscape of college sports. And, you know, we talk about golf now. That landscape is changing dramatically, particularly with the portal at Division I. And, you know, back in the day, we had a lot, and still do, don't misunderstand me, some really good junior college golf being played. And so you can keep up with the National Junior College athletic associations online and see their events and the teams that's really doing good. And sometimes it's a really good thing for a student or a golfer to get involved in a 2-year school, maybe local, and so, but you look to see where their players go. That's the important thing. But with the portal situation now, it's really interesting. We're beginning to see some Division I schools kind of cherry picking Division II and III because they will play in some of these events that. And I'm going to get to the purpose of what I'm saying, is that they'll play in some of the like events, and they keep watching this. And if that number 1 or number 2 player at a Division II school is beating their number 4 or 5 player, they're going to try to get them through the portal.
Yeah.
See if we can, that happened locally where we're at now. One of the Anderson University is one of the best Division II schools in the country. That's where I started coaching back when it was a junior college. Now it's a great Division II 4-year institution. And Danny Neal and Denton are doing Denton Moore are doing a great job with both of those programs. So I give them a little bit of a blast here. Is it look at Anderson University, because they were ranked number 1 in men's golf and I think 3 and 4 in women's golf this year. And I know that one of their top players is going to Clemson next year. So Clemson kind of cherry-picked that Division II player. So the portal is changing that landscape. So maybe that if I'm not a top-end recruited player, if a Division I school is interested in you or interested in what you're doing at a national type of or high level, they'll contact you. Okay, you can reach out to the schools you want to go to, but used to be that if you weren't being heavily recruited or even recruited at all, you could always find that Division III or Division II school, NAIA school, that would welcome you to come because you fit into their category player. But it was almost like it was, a letdown, disappointment you had to do that. But in today's world, it's almost the proving grounds for some of these top Division I schools possibly. Now, what I'm saying is possibly, because it's so young and so early in that availability, we're yet to see how it's truly going to play out. But you're beginning to see some of that movement from those top Division II schools into those Division I schools. You're beginning to see it. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to, mom and dad and college kid and instructors, I know that Todd Ellison and Mike both work with some really good junior players. We've had good junior players through our program that went to Clemson. One of them now is Carson Young, doing very well on the PGA Tour. And, so you're going to see that change. So I think right now the playbook, if you want to get down to it for a player and a parent, is that you may want to look and interview your instructors early. If you got maybe a 12 or 13-year-old youngster that's really dedicated and committed to being a really good player, there's a difference here. I mean, it's not like going out and practicing everything. This is being committed to being a top-line player, being recruited by top-line schools, means you're going to be out there working with a really good instructor that understands how a person changes from the time they're 12 to the time they're 18.
Yeah,
they're a different person. And go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just to add to that. Very interestingly, I was watching, up in Dothan, Alabama this past weekend. They had the Future Masters.
Future Masters.
An event been a great
Yeah.
event, and that covers.
I was a low qualifier when I was 13.
Well, I mean, it's obviously been going on a long time, and they actually temporarily moved it. It's been held at for many years at the Dothan Country Club, and they're doing some renovations, so they moved it out to the Highland Oaks, the Robert Trent Jones course this year, and I think it'll move back next year. But that's 13 to 18, so that's kind of in the sweet spot of really what you're talking about. And I'll tell you, I didn't get to watch the whole thing, unfortunately, but I watched on the final round on Saturday, and there was some good, just incredibly good young players that actually made me sick.
I'm gonna age myself dramatically. That if you look at the historical winners of that event, which I know they post every year in their program, that's been probably the premier junior golf tournament in the Southeast up until AJGA got involved. And, because if you won the Future Masters, you were on the top of a lot of college lists.
I'm sure,
and it hasn't changed. It's a wonderful event. They take great pride. And I'm telling this for the people that are out there listening. That tournament, the people that have run it for years and years, and I know they're different than what it was when I was playing in it, is they've taken great pride in that event forever. and they will continue to take great pride. And so your junior golfer going to Dothan Country Club to play in the Future Masters will be treated better than you could ever imagine of being a player in their event. So I put that really high on my list. Absolutely.
Yeah. There was a lot of it was great for these young players and obviously their supporting families. Not so good for the rest of us that wanted to go out and have dinner at a local restaurant because it was packed.
Well, no, absolutely
with all
not.
These things. But it was great to watch them. And I mean, there were. Yeah, I know exactly. It's that's when you flash up the grill and stay home. But
that's right.
You know, there were a lot of great players from literally all over the place here in the United States.
Yes,
traveling with their folks and so forth. But yeah, definitely a great event. So I want to ask this, and again, I'll give you a couple of specific things that I really want you to focus on and talk about. But from a young player, as a young junior golfer that has been thinking about it, you know, maybe they're 12, 13 years old. And, you know, they've got to start thinking about that. They've got to start thinking about this even at that age, if not even sooner. So finding the right college for you, and I'm meaning them, you know, determining where you want to go extends really beyond just golf scores. It's important to decide, you know, the priorities in athletic and academic space as well. You know, are you looking to play college golf at the top level, or do you want an opportunity, you know, maybe to compete while focusing on your major? So there's really no right answer here. It depends on really what you want.
No.
And there's also something else to consider is for future careers, is it going to be in the golf industry after your competitive play, you know, playing days? And I know there's some great PGA golf management university programs out there that maybe you can touch on a couple of them. So how do, from a kid standpoint, I say kids because they're a lot younger than us, what are some things that they need to consider other than what I've just mentioned?
Well, I think you see the commercials all the time on television, NCAA. Like 90% of our students don't play professional sports. They do other things. So the vast majority of the people that are going to play collegiate golf go on to be doctors and lawyers and, you know, construction workers or whatever their field of choice are, and become great amateur players. You know, that's what we've lost sight of a little in this country, is that we've always had a lot of great amateur players. And I think we're going to continue to get that because we're getting deeper and deeper into college golf where, you know, the parity across, you know, the Division I to Division II down to Division III, there's a lot of great players. So we're going to have a lot more amateur golfers. And, you know, I've always, when I was talking to people, you want to go, and it's kind of a twofold question about where do you start getting competitive is kind of part of what you said. And now it's about what college you're going to go to. Well, once I've reached that level that I'm going to play college golf, I'm good enough. I've started it when I was 13 or 14. And I've progressed nicely with my instructors, and I've played some competitions, and I've been out of just my local, local counties junior events. I've played in the Future Masters. I've tried to qualify for some state level, you know, junior opens, and maybe tried to play in my state open, and, you know, get out to where there's some good players where college coaches want to see you playing against comparable players.
Right.
You know, with all due respect to your local junior championship, you could win it 20 times in a row, and that really don't prove that you're a college-level player. It just proves you're the best player in your neighborhood. And so you got to get out of your neighborhood to prove that you can compete. And that's an individual thing that a parent and a child has to decide. Some kids are ready to do that when they're 12, 13 years old, and then it may be that from a maturity level that it may be 14, 15, 17, 18. That's a very individual thing, because when I was coaching and recruiting players, you could see a kid burn out. He'd be really good at 12, 13 years old, and by the time he got to be 18, he was they just were burnt out of playing, you know. And so that's a real personal, individual thing that you have to decide, you know. But you know, I think obviously you mentioned there's a lot of factors that go into where you want to go to school, and it's one of those things that, again, it's individual. Some children or some kids, I want to go here because their program I want to get into is the best, and if I play golf, that's a bonus. Then there's others that playing golf is the most important thing, and getting a reasonable degree is the bonus. I like the idea of getting the good undergraduate degree and play golf as a bonus. You know, you mentioned the PGM programs. I'm only going to tell you about one.
Right.
Okay. I was in the first class of a PGM program at Ferris State University. So as far as I'm concerned, there's only one PGA program in the country, and that's in Big Rapids, with Michigan, and Ferris State University, which, by the way, is two-time Division II football national champions. Just throw that out there. But you know, there's numbers of them around. Okay, Methodist, Penn State, all of those have the PGM programs, and I would highly encourage a young person that wanted to get into golf as a career. That's a very good path. It treated me well, I'll promise you. And my friends that I know, we did quite well coming through the PGM program. It was very new, 1976. It was the very beginnings of it. But I run into quite a few PGM graduates at the clubs that I go to that have done quite well as well. But I've also met the ones that come up through the ranks too. So if you want a career in golf, the PGM programs are a wonderful path, and you get such a diversity of opportunities because you intern, and you can intern around the country and not just work for one person and go through. So that's a great avenue for that. And most of them also have good golf teams, so you can kind of get your degree in golf management and get a chance to play collegiate golf as a bonus. So, but what it really comes down to is a parent and a child evaluating where they're at, where they want to be, and then try to determine, you know, the best path to get there. You know, we talk a lot about in playing golf is that you have to have, you know, what is your objective? What do you want to, where you want to go with this shot? And then how do you intend to get there? So if my objective is to play at a top level of collegiate golf, you have to have an intention of how you're going to do that. Have a plan. And I would encourage people to look around. Is any of the instructors in your area, golf professionals, dealt with college students that have been successful? And seek them out. They know how to do it. And seek them out, because every situation is a little bit different. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to put one roadmap on how do I get to a Division I school. You know, you have to find a person that can help you manage that intent. Okay. Yeah,
and there's a lot of great, certainly great coaches out there, and it comes down really personalities. You know, you have to find the right person for you, because who, you know, the coach for you might not be the same coach for me, or vice versa. So, you know, you have to have that conversation. And I just want to touch a little bit on the parents aspect as well. I mean, obviously the parents need to be involved, especially, you know, when they're a lot younger. I mean, at any point really, but the parents need to be involved. But something that you kind of alluded to, and we don't have to expand too much because it's pretty much a given. But one of the problems, unfortunately, in this junior golf arena is sort of overbearing parents. You know, the child has to really be the one to take the lead on this. What do they want? Now, they may need help in making some decisions, but it has to be at their behest and not the parents. A lot of times, and I know you've probably seen this throughout the years, where you get parents that are very overzealous and they just want to push. And then, like you said, you know, kids get burnt out. There's too much pressure on them, and they're no longer having fun. It becomes, you know, and when you're 12, 13, 14 years old and you're just sort of working your way up through the junior ranks, it can be exciting, a lot of fun, and certainly challenging. But if you've got, you know, a three-headed monster breathing down your neck, you know, 24/7, you know, on top of working with the coach and, you know, whatever else, it's difficult. And a lot of these kids, as you said, get burnt out. They're playing too much. They're not having enough diversity. And I think that's important to mention. So, you know, for you parents out there that have kids that have expressed an interest, or maybe they're already in the program, you need to step back. You don't want to be that soccer, mom and dad that's running up and down the field yelling out at their kid all the time. Let them have some fun. Let them enjoy it. Let them lead. And if they want to step away for a little bit, even if they have aspirations of playing at a higher level, if they need a break, let them have it. I think if you push them too hard, then it's going to have other consequences. So I just want to throw that in there. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised at how many parents need to listen to that. I want to ask you something else too, and that is, sort of being a part of the junior golf rankings. I think that's important as well, to be playing in some of these, a lot of these junior events, as you said, not just in your local region, but elsewhere. Sure. And there's some great junior golf tours out there, like the AJGA, the Future Collegians World Golf Tour, Southeastern Junior Golf, Hurricane, and so on, and many others.
Hurricane,
there's a ton of them out there.
They're out there.
Yeah, you need to do some research. You need to, once you've sort of found a coach, have a conversation with them about that. What are some of the better ones? And it's not just necessarily the top ones, but what is going to provide you with the best benefits. Do you want to touch on that just a little bit, about sort of getting out there and putting yourself out there in these junior rankings?
Sure. I think you have to what I would do and back to your point about the parents and the child, somewhere maybe when they're a freshman or sophomore in high school, they're going to decide whether they really want to be a golfer or just an athlete. So that's a good time frame there. And what I would begin to do is, there's nothing wrong for a parent or a child to pick up the phone and call the golf coach at the universities or colleges that they're interested in. Have a list. I wouldn't have a long list. Maybe the top 10 of the colleges and schools that you might be interested in attending in the next 4 years. Because you're going to come into a freshman. Obviously, it's going to take you 4 years to get to be a senior. And ask them a simple question. Which one of these junior tour rankings do you pay the most attention to? Okay? Which ones do you watch? Because they all watch different ones. I mean, if you're on the West Coast, they got different ones out there. If you're on the East Coast, we have different. Down the Southeast, Hurricane, AJGA, and, so ask them who they look for their rankings and what they think are comparable junior events. Then I would also look at play in adult events if you can get in them. You want to play in your state open. There's great amateurs like the Southeastern Amateur that I still think is being played in Columbus, Georgia every year. There's great junior events, amateur events that you can get into. I would think if I'm going to be that top line Division I player, I'm going to want to be thinking that I'm going to try to qualify for the U.S. Open, the U.S. Amateur. Put yourself out there. You got to get your name alongside of those other names in the same events. Get out there and try. I had a young man that played for me, Frank Licklider, from Ohio, played for me for 1 year, then he went back to Wright State. But he was one of the most determined young men I've ever met because he knew he was going to play the tour. And I know he flew into the national championship the day after he tried to qualify for the U.S. Open. And this was freshman in college. So that determination of putting yourself in those events, you need to find out how good you are. Is your goals and your objectives realistic? Are you as good as you think you are? And the only way you're going to find that out is to put yourself out there in those top-level events, either being the good amateur state level, national amateurs, or your top-end junior tours. You'll find out, and you'll know what you need to do. Because it's not that you're not possibly, is you just haven't kind of figured out, okay, if I want to be this good, pay attention to what those guys that are that good already are doing. Who they're working with, what's their routine. Pay attention. They didn't get there by accident. And particularly in your amateur events, they're seasoned players. They didn't get there by accident either, so pay attention to how they're operating. But I think that from the junior tour standpoint, that I would be asking the coaches of the schools that I was most interested in what they view as the best tours and ones they use to compare rankings from player to player. That way you know which ones you should be playing in. Okay.
Yeah, you want to know where their eyes are going to be most often. Because,
correct.
Right. You don't want to. Yeah, and again, it's not to be disrespectful to any of the junior tours,
No.
but at the same time, there are some that are certainly maybe hold a higher standard, in the industry and are recognized more in the industry. And again, sometimes you just, I hate to use the term, but you have to play the game, and that's part of the process. So. Yeah, you got to, especially with the competition. I want to read out a few things. I'm not going to go through it all because there's a lot, but I think it's important, and I'm going to make a point of posting this a little more officially, over the next little bit, so that folks can have an understanding. But I want to talk about some of the standard NCAA golf recruiting rules, because there are rules to this, what you can, and I'm going to just very briefly over the three divisions, 1, 2, and 3. So that people have and then I'll get you to make any comments that you want. So the NCAA golf regulations are the same, for men and women, but differ slightly by school division. So when planning campus visits, beware of dead periods where no contact is allowed with coaches, typically around holidays. In order to be considered for college play, you also must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center, which reviews your amateur status and high school transcripts. So for both men and women in Division 1, here's some of the regulations. So freshman and sophomore year after high school, you can have no communication with college golf coaches or the athletic department until after June 15th, after your sophomore year. Beforehand, you may receive college golf camp and recruiting brochures, and you can make unofficial visits to college campuses as long as you don't speak with anyone from the athletic department, tour free tickets to home games until August 1st before your junior year. So there's others there, and again, I'll have that post up. Division 2, very brief. You can take unofficial visits at any point in your recruiting journey. Again, after June 15th, after your sophomore year, you have unofficial visits to Division 2 schools, though there is still a cap on one official visit per college. And again, Division 3 and NAIA schools, you'll notice the following. College coaches can begin contact with you at any time during high school, and you can go on unlimited unofficial visits during that time. And you can have off-campus contact with college coaches after your sophomore year. So there's other stuff there. I just want to touch on a few. So it's important for people to know that because, and there's a reason why that goes on. Obviously, it's to protect. Obviously, the schools have to adhere to certain rules as well, but it's really to protect everybody in the process so that there isn't any sort of, stacking the deck, if you will. But that's important, and particularly, I think it's not only important for the kids, but it's really important for the parent to understand that so they can be informed. And this is a conversation, again, that you could have with your coach, right?
Oh, absolutely. You want to have that conversation with your high school coach team, which is sometimes really good, sometimes, just a really good person trying to help out some kids. But with your instructor, your golf instructor, that you hopefully will be developing that relationship with, they need to know that as well and know when and how they can contact college coaches. And not necessarily on your behalf of one individual, but to talk to different coaches for his own purpose, not for just one student. If I was an instructor, and I would be interested in how college coaches recruit, because I'm trying to help my students in general knowing how to do that. So I need to be knowledgeable on how college coaches do. The rules, basically, I think, is more to protect the student from just an onslaught of phone calls and stuff from coaches.
Right.
And also the other side, the coaches need a break too. They need a vacation. Yeah. So those dead periods is really nice for them as well, because then they know nobody's expecting them to call. Okay. If there's that dead period or let's say there's not a dead period and I'm a college junior or senior and the phone's not ringing, I'm beginning to get a little worried. But it's just the coach and his family went on vacation for a week. He's not calling anybody. So those dead periods kind of relieve everybody of that pressure. It relieves the kid and the parent to having to answer the phone all the time and open the letters, emails. And it also relieves the coaching staffs at the universities. Okay, I can take a break here because nobody's expecting me to do anything. You know what I mean? It's not like, well, I've been real hot on this one player, now all of a sudden I'm not. So they don't get the misunderstanding of why there's not this continual contact. There's a dead period, so everybody's off the hook. The pressure's down. People can go on vacation. They can go out and play in some events without thinking they just got everybody there watching me, and kind of enjoy the process a little better. I think the rules are great. But there are knowledgeable people out there other than coaches on just what people expect.
And there's a lot of...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish your thought. No, finish your thought.
Oh, yeah. Well, there are companies out there, and I'm not going to get into that. I'm not real high on them, that will, for a fee, they'll help you get noticed. I'm not so sure that that's the best way to do it, but there are companies out there that do that.
Yeah, there's a lot. I was going to briefly mention that as well, and I'm not going to get into specifics. But it's like anything, you've got to be careful. Yeah, you've got to be careful too, because there's a lot out there that that may make promises. So it's always good to have somebody that you've been comfortable with, your swing coach, what have you, your teacher professional you've been working with, through up the ranks. And again, there's two things I want to differentiate so that people aren't confused here. We're really talking about two different coaches. You have your coach that maybe you've been working with through junior golf and maybe got you started in the game. And then you've got your college golf coach who works at some of these programs that you're looking to get in. So I want to make sure that that's who we're talking about. When I was talking about the NCAA rules there, that's who I was talking about as far as contacting them. There's rules there about how you contact. So I'm referring to the college golf coaches in that aspect. Obviously, you can contact your swing coach anytime you want, but if you're interested in playing in Division 1, 2, or 3, there's certain protocols that you have to follow. But yeah, there are some very reputable individuals out there that have a lot of experience. Maybe they're ex-college golf coaches that are looking to keep their toes in the sand or in the water, and have maybe formed some sort of a recruiting process. Again, you got to be careful of it, but there are some that are very good out there that really understand the process and can help guide you. And yes, obviously there are usually fees involved, but again, just do your homework, always get referrals and that sort of thing. So we've gone through the process of the dead zone, if you will, and the timing and when you can do that. And now it's time to talk to your college golf coach, or potential coach. So what's the best approach, do you think? I mean, some kids are a little shy. Maybe they don't want to just dive right in and do it. What's the best way? Is to maybe reach out, through email, just to sort of say, hey, here I am. I'd like to have a conversation with you. I'm interested in your school. What's the best way from a kid's standpoint to approach, to sort of knock on the door, if you will?
Well, I think you just mentioned it. I mean, make contact however you can. I mean, make a phone call, send him a letter. Most of these top-line coaches have assistant coaches that are kind of head their recruiting process, and so find out where their recruiting starts. Is it the assistant coach or is it the head coach? Make them know that you're interested, and then they'll maybe take a look and see how you're doing. Back in the day, everybody sent a resume. Now, maybe they still do that. I don't know. But I think you have to take the initiative, okay, to make them aware you're interested in them just as much as they want to make sure that the players they've identified are interested, that they know that the coaching at the university is interested in them. So it's a two-way street. I also would, under the rules, we don't want to get any gray area here, is I would look at the school's former teams, who the alumni are, and reach out to some of those that may be in your local area. Hey, you used to play on this golf team. How was it? maybe I wouldn't go back more than wherever the existing coach went to. Find out how long the coach has been there. Look at that list of his teams or her teams, and look and see if there's any of those people that you can reach out to inside the period of time when you can reach out to the alumni as well. We don't want to break the rules. And speak with them. Let them know, because, the course is obviously Clemson University and Anderson University are close to us, and they have great history of alumni support and things. So you go back and maybe contact some of them. Hey, I'm interested in playing at the university you played at. Can you tell me a little something about it? Or maybe how was the coach? How do I get in touch with them? That information's out there, obviously readily available to the public, how you get a hold of them. But maybe talk to some of the alumni as well. They might be able to give you a part of that intent. How do you intend to get to where you want to? And speaking to former players and alumni, as part, in my opinion, would be part of that intent. How am I going to get to where I want to be? I don't think you can ask too many questions of people that have been where you want to go. They may have a different opinion. So I would reach out to that coach when you can, by the rules, to let them know you're interested in their school. And that's a point of pride for them. You get a really good junior golfer that's out there improving and coming along. That's a point of pride for them that they're doing their job to reach out and show that this is a place you might want to be. So coming from the other way, that's a point of pride for them as well. So I never would, not do that. You got to reach out to them.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got to start that conversation. And I know it's probably a little more difficult nowadays. I mean, it's still always been difficult, but nowadays, unfortunately, the kids are buried in their phones all the time. So they're not as good, communicators in person as much as they used to be. They're more through social media and things like that. So, there's a lot of great ways, even with technology, that you can certainly reach out initially, but eventually you're going to have to talk to them. And, I don't see anything in the rules. If you're somebody that, maybe has a favorite school that you're interested in and you're a good player, maybe flash their colors, wear their colors a lot, and send them a signal and say, hey, Clemson, I'm wearing your colors here, and maybe I've got, something on the golf bag as well that when they're out there looking, they say, hey, this guy, So,
nothing wrong with wearing that orange and white,
Right, exactly. So, so there's a lot of great ways that you can do it that will certainly get you under the radar. But I want to talk a little bit more about parents, because the parents have a huge role in this as well. I mentioned it earlier about, putting the pressure and things like that. But what do the parents need to do? What's some of the process that they need to do early on from the get-go that they can do to really help, not just guide, but give them some solid advice, and then what do they need to do, or when do they need to back off? At what point do they need to back off and say, okay, I'm going to let the process sort of roll out. I've done my part. I'm certainly going to continue to be supportive and engage whenever possible. But what's the first steps that the parents need to do, do you think, when their little ones come up and said, hey, I love playing golf and I'm really interested in seeing where I can go with this, whether it be playing or in the industry in some fashion. What role can the parents play that can be supportive and beneficial to the youngster?
Well, I mean, that's a big question, but it really comes down to the parent understanding their kid, and are you determined? Are they that determined type of attitude about, hey, I'm going to go out here, I really want to do this. And I think that decision has to take place in their teenage years, not when they're 10 or 11 years old. A young child like that should be playing every sport they can play. If you look at it, the greatest players that we can say in our game, Nicholas Woods, Bobby Jones, they were all sport players. They didn't just play golf. They played everything. So let them play. Let them be a kid. Let them play sports until they've matured enough to decide, well, you want to try to pursue the golf as the main sport, or maybe you want to pursue soccer, whatever it is. If it's golf, then here's my recommendation. Unless you're a golf professional or a golf instructor, then you need to go out and hire one and stay out of their way. Parents, and many do this now, not all, but some of them will do that. But, I've always asked the parent, what do you do for a living? And they'll tell me. And I'll say, well, that's wonderful, and you were hired to do your job, right? And you would probably be a little upset if your customer come in and started telling you how to do your job. And see, a golf professional or golf instructor thinks the same way. You hired me to do a job. Now let me do my job. Support your child. Be the driver to get them to the tournament, get them to their lessons, but be able to let the professional you hired to try to help your child move forward do their job. When I was really actively coaching some juniors, I would go to the tournaments locally they were playing in, but I wouldn't follow them. I'd go watch them warm up, give them some encouragement, and I wouldn't follow them. Firstly, because it made me nervous as I could be. I want to go out there and help them, and but I wouldn't follow them. I wouldn't want that pressure on them. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen some parents that recognize their child needs their support while they're playing, just for them to be there. That's wonderful.
Right.
Go do it. Be there. But I've also seen the child that says, hey, I need to be out here on my own. I appreciate you bringing me, but sit at the clubhouse. I'll talk to you at the turn. And the parent needs to recognize that. It's not the child's responsibility. It's the parent going, I know I'll make you nervous when I go out there with you, so I'm just going to stay here. You'll be okay. Go out and play. Have fun. I'll see you at the turn. That is a really hard thing for a parent to do. I'm not suggesting at all that it would be easy to do that, because you want to be there for your child and support them, And I always wanted to be there for mine when they were having a hard day, not the good day. They needed my support more when they had a bad day, not the good day. So it's hard not to want to do that. But I think the biggest thing I would, and I've never run into very many of these parents, mind you. There's not that many. They say, hey, let me do my job. If you want to be their coach, go ahead. I'm happy for you. But if you're going to hire, and this is where that interview of instructors becomes real important.
Right.
Okay, I wouldn't just take the first one I found. You need to, if you've got a potential good golfer who wants to play collegiate golf, you need to do the parent's role here is to do a little research and find out who in their area can help them get to where they want to be under the style and attitude of their child and them. So that interview process of trying to determine who your instructors will be, because I've done this many times, is that I've had a kid that comes in, you've worked with them a little bit, and it's just as far as I can take them. So I then recommend, hey, you may want to go over and set up some time with Todd here, because he can take your child further up this ladder than I can.
Right.
And that's a really good way of looking at just how far, and ask that question, how far do you think you can take my child in this process? Or is that instructor committed to helping them get to where they need to be? So it's kind of a three-way street. You got the parent, instructor, and the player and the child. So that interview process of that instructor then will help the parent to determine really what their best role is in helping their child achieve their objectives. And, it's one of those things where parents, you don't get a redo on this. You only got a 3 or 4 year shot at it, and you don't do a redo. So it's real important that you begin to understand that pathway intent. How am I going to help them get to where they want to be? And then if they're qualified, great. I've had friends of mine that were professionals that their children were great players, and they coached them up well. Justin Thomas is a great example. His father coached him all the way through. Jay Sewell, the coach that Justin Thomas played for, his father, Mr. Jackie Sewell, was a great instructor in our area and had all of his boys were great players. Daniel and Jay are great players. So he coached them along. So there's that instant where you had a father, son, daughter, whatever qualified that could do it. But the other side of it is, if you're not, it's real important for that interview to find that person that can help them work their way through the ranks and move forward. Not to say that it's a one-time choice. You might find one that does. You try them, it doesn't work out. You move on to the next. Try to change gears. But I think the real key support factor for your parents is to be able to find the professional, the instructor. Their role is to do the interviewing and find the person that can help their child move towards their objectives with proper intent. And
it goes to what really we talked about earlier on, and that is,
right.
The why. We want to know why that child wants to play, what their objectives, what their goals
Sure.
are. And I know at a very early age it's hard for them to define it, and that's where the parents can kind of help guide a little bit. But it really depends on what the child wants. If the child does not want to, and also the seriousness too. And this is something that a coach, an experienced coach, is going to be able to draw out of them to see whether or not this is just sort of a phase. Hey, I kind of like golf and enjoy playing with Dad, and I think I might have a shot. You want to see that because, and it's not so much from a standpoint that the coach doesn't necessarily want to waste his or her time, but they want to see really how serious the child is about, because it's a commitment. It's not just, okay, we're going to come out once or twice a month and we'll, hit some balls around that. If you want to play at that level, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 division, you've got to put commitments into it. And obviously the higher up the ladder you go, the more of the commitment. And sometimes kids, get into a situation where they don't want to disappoint the parents, what have you. And so they keep grinding it out. And maybe at some point through the process, they've decided, this is not really what I wanted to do as much as I thought it was, but I don't want to disappoint Dad, or I don't want to, disappoint both of my parents, or whatever the case is. So this is where early conversation between parent and child is. It's great that they want to shoot for the stars, but is this really? And let somebody that's professional, that knows the questions to ask, talk with it. And certainly the parents need to be present and ask their own questions, but they need to let that coach sort of do their work. And again, you want to do in those earlier interviews, you want to make sure that there's a connection between the child and the coach, because if there's personality conflicts, that sort of thing, that's going to leave a sour taste. So, and again, everybody's not for everybody. So, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And don't be afraid. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing to add here, in the early stages, if you got like a 10, 12, 13-year-old child that's thinking they want to do it, I've always wanted the parent to be there at that particular stage.
Yeah.
That helped me develop a relationship with the parent and the student at the same time. And at that point, the parent can help the child with a second set of eyes. Here's what we're wanting to work on. Here's what it looks like. You can help them progress a little bit. But once we move into that 13, 14, 15 age group where they're kind of a young adult, that's when that relationship with the instructor becomes more important than the instructor to the parent.
Right. Exactly. Well said. Again, because, the child has to, have an understanding of what their, what their process is, what they're going through, as well as the coach. And I think also to emphasize a point you made earlier is the parents need to allow the coach to do their job. They can't micromanage. And that's where those earlier conversations to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because if you've got a coach that's, okay, I've got a plan, here's what the plan is, and the parents sort of, verbally say, well, yeah, okay, that sounds okay, let's see how it goes, and they're not really on board with that, then that becomes a problem where suddenly they're telling the child, well, I know the coach said to do this, but we think you need to do this. Then you're sabotaging the process. So everybody has to be on the same page. And again, if it doesn't work out, well, then you can move on. But that's one area that I would say to parents, you need to let the coach do their job. You need to be confident and feel comfortable in the decisions and the game plan, if you will. Everybody has to be on board, child especially, do as well. Because if they're, again, micromanaging the coach all the time, then they're just defeating the purpose. And the coach is either going to give up and just say, look, this is not going to work out, or the child's going to get so frustrated because they're getting communication from both sides. They obviously don't want to disappoint the parents. They certainly don't want to disappoint the coach either, and they don't know where to turn. And then out of frustration, they walk away. And that unfortunately does happen, maybe not as much in some areas as others, but I know in Florida, I've spoken to a number of coaches who have seen that happen, where the helicopter parents come out and they micromanage the whole process, and it just does not. It's a disaster for the child and for the whole process. So, but interesting conversation. I enjoyed that. I learned something, and
loved it.
And it's hopefully the listeners have as well. I think it's an important topic. I think as we touched on off air, there's a lot of new folks coming out to the game, both young and old, and it's exciting to see some of these youngsters come out, and some of them may have aspirations of playing collegiate golf. I don't know. Some of them may just want to go out there and hit the ball around with some of their buddies, and that's the extent of it. That's okay too. But I think it's a good idea for parents, particularly to have an understanding that if their child has expressed an interest to play collegiate golf or at some higher level, that they put a game plan in place, and that they make the right contacts. And there's a process. So I'm going to put some information up online a little bit later on about some of the rules and things like that, and maybe some links to some good areas that parents can go to get some information to get the ball rolling for those that are looking for it. But Clint, as always, great conversation. I enjoyed it. And so what are you gonna do for the holiday? Are you gonna take some time off this holiday weekend?
Well, I'm in Atlanta right now. My grandson's first birthday is tomorrow, so we're going to celebrate that and 4th of July kind of at the same time. So it's a really good time, and then I'm very fortunate. There's a group of us leaving next week going to Ireland for a while, so we're going to play some golf over there. So we're really looking forward to that. And I would encourage people, if they're wanting to get overseas, Ireland is a very welcoming place to go, and got great golf courses in Ireland. We're really looking forward to that trip. So a lot of guys there from the local area going with us. So it should be fun. But I hope everybody has a safe 4th of July. And Ted, you're going to have a nice vacation, so that'll be good. But we look forward to having a little time off as well, and hopefully, and Ted, you're right. I think more kids are going to like to think about college golf, because on the Golf Channel now they're showing college golf. They're showing different tournaments, so it's out there more than it ever has been. We're seeing more kids get in the junior programs than we ever had in the past, at least in the recent years. So it's a wonderful time to be in our business and be part of our sport. And I think that the younger guys in our business now have a great future, because we're seeing a lot of 25 and 15-year-olds and 30-year-olds starting to play golf that is a welcome sight around most golf courses today, I'm sure. So, but I have enjoyed the show. This has been a little bit different than what we normally do, and so it's been kind of fun having that conversation with you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And Clint, just very quickly, I know you're going to have some time with your grandson there and enjoy that experience. And your trip over to Ireland. I look forward to hearing some good stories about that when you return. But just quickly, let the folks know. Yeah, I'm sure there will. Just be safe. Let the folks know the best way if they want to reach out to you and maybe have questions or want to find out how you can help their game or certainly point them in the right direction. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah. The easiest way is just send me an email at clintgolf001@yahoo.com. I'll be more than happy to answer those, or they can find me on Facebook. It's just type in Clint Wright in Anderson, South Carolina, and they can find me that way and message me there, and we can we'll definitely respond back to them, because we've had a great time on the show over the years, and look forward to the future with it as well. So everybody have a great holiday, and Ted, thanks again.
Appreciate it. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you next month. Thanks, Clint.
All right.
All right, that was Clint Wright joining me on a special Coach's Corner panel, talking about a little bit about the recruiting process for college golf. As he mentioned, a lot of folks out there coming into the game, and especially some of the younger kids that have really grappled to the game and may have aspirations of playing at a higher level. And college golf can certainly be a great experience for that younger junior golfers. So something to consider. And as I said, I'll put some information out through my social media channels to give you some tips on where you can go to get more information than what you heard tonight. But appreciate that conversation, Clint. All right, we're going to take a quick break for a message from Golf Tips Magazine, and then I'll be back with tonight's special guest, Linda Hartough.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros, simple-to-follow practice and game improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right, welcome back to my regular Thursday night edition of Golf Talk Live. Always excited to do this program, which airs every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And as I mentioned, next week I will have another program, and then I'll be off on a week's holiday. So the following Thursday, there won't be a show, but you can certainly go to our main link, blogtalkradio.com/golftalklive, and you can scroll down to the on-demand section and listen to all of the previously aired broadcasts in their entirety. But thanks for joining live tonight. All right, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I'm joined once again by my very special guest. She's been on the show a number of times. In fact, she was on earlier this year, I think on the 30th of March, if I'm not mistaken, and enjoyed the pleasure of having her on the program. And let me just do a quick introduction, and I'll bring her out, and we'll get into tonight's interview. My very special guest this evening is Linda Hartough. She is a world-renowned golf landscape painter. Her work is displayed in the permanent collections of such legendary clubs as Augusta National, Laurel Valley, Pinehurst, and Pine Valley, and also in a number of personal collections of such golf notables as Jack Nicklaus, Ray Floyd, and Reese Jones, and also has some collections in the USGA Museum in Far Hills, New Jersey, and in the Morris Museum of Art in Augusta, Georgia. Many, many other accolades as well, and she was also inducted in 2017 into the Low Country Golf Hall of Fame and has been honored by Golf Digest with the Lifetime Achievement Award. So please welcome back to the show my very special guest this evening, Linda Hartough.
Hi, Ted. It's great to visit with you again.
Well, hi, Linda, and welcome back. You're getting to be a regular guest.
I know. I love it. Thank you for that great introduction.
Well, you know, you've got, and I know so many other things that I could read out, but you've got so many things. I actually had to start editing it down because I didn't want to waste our time just going through everything, and then I have a chance to ask you any questions. So let me just start with this, and I know I've asked you many, many times, obviously about specifically what you do in that, but when did you first start doing and becoming a golf landscape painter? When did you first start doing that? And what was sort of the thought process? Were you doing other things first, and then this sort of was a natural progression, or was this something that you had an interest from a very early age that I want to be a painter, and at some point in the process, you got into the golf landscaping side of things? Give us a little bit of history of that.
Well, yeah. I think I was always an artist. I think I knew I was an artist for sure by age 6, because I realized then not everybody did what I did, which was a lot of artwork. So basically that guided the rest of my life because, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm an artist. So every decision I made from then on was pretty much based on that, which I was very fortunate for that, too. I can say that. But anyway, my first golf landscape was in 1984. Before that, I painted many different subjects, a lot of landscape, portraits, even equine portraits. So I had quite a range of things that I did. And I guess some people from Augusta National saw my landscapes in a gallery in Hilton Head, near where I live. And the pros called and asked if I could paint a golf course, and I said, sure. So I painted the 13th hole for the first time in 1984. And I really had no idea where that would lead, but it's led to almost 40 years of painting golf landscapes. So it was quite a momentous thing. At the time, I didn't realize it, but where it would lead, but it certainly did.
Well, obviously, it was a very smart decision on your part. It served you well with a really wonderful career that you've enjoyed and still continue to enjoy. What is it about golf art that you find most interesting? Because again, for people that don't play golf, I know people that don't play and say, well, I don't get the game at all, and that it's not really so much about the game itself, but what is it about golf art that you find really interesting?
Well, of course, my first love is just the landscape, and the golf landscape is just incredibly beautiful, but it's also tied into the game, obviously. And so there's that sort of metaphysical part to it besides just being a landscape. I think everyone experiences golf. Well, it's a discipline, right? So you have a lot of experiences on that golf course. And I try to convey that part of it as well as just a landscape. But what's exciting as an artist is how the light hits the land and just all the landscape in general, whether it's like Pebble Beach or Royal County Down, you have these wonderful views that are just stunning that happen to have a golf course on them.
Let me ask you about that, because that's really interesting. Because you mentioned that obviously prior to this you'd painted other landscapes and things like that. And I always wondered about this. If you're painting, let's say, just a general landscape somewhere, unless somebody is familiar with that, they're not going to know, how accurate or whatnot. But when you're doing, let's say, the number 13 at Augusta National that people are very familiar with. And again, obviously there could be subtle mistakes here and there. People would never notice, unless they had a trained eye. But is it more challenging as an artist to do something like say a hole or a part of a course than it would be, say, a general landscape somewhere where somebody may not be familiar with that particular vision, if you will? Is it harder as an artist or more challenging? I guess would be the word.
It's definitely, you can't, like I said, you can't think of it just as a composition of the landscape. You have to also think of it as a whole, as part of a game. So someone is going to be obviously looking at it who's familiar with the course, and they're going to be looking at it as, how do I play this hole? Or how have I played this hole? Or what are the challenges of this hole? And so that's very much a part of it. You can't just take a little piece out of a golf course and paint it and expect, it's a combination of a lot of different things.
And there's a lot of thought.
Mental and physical.
And a lot of thought.
Then I have to find what excites me about it being just a landscape. And that usually includes the lighting, the composition. There'll be certain elements I really want to get in there, like if there's a mountain or a water feature or whatever. So I have to construct all that in my choice, and what makes it exciting to me to paint. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So are you, on a personal level, are you somebody that has played golf over the years? Maybe you still do or don't, or have ever played. And if so, has that helped your eye a little bit when it comes to creating, essentially these landscape masterpieces? Is it help you as somebody who does play or doesn't play?
Well, I have to say I haven't played much. I played when I was young. My father was an avid golfer, so I was around it all the time. But since I already had a discipline or two with art, and I was riding horses a lot then. I didn't give it much time. But when I got into it with Augusta, of course I got into it in a big way then. I got real interested in it, and I really did a lot of research and watched the tournaments, went to the tournaments. Early on, I went to Scotland and, just immersed myself in it, basically, really. And because I watch all these tournaments, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. And
right.
Being there, watching other people play, you don't really have to play I don't think, to appreciate the game for what it is.
Right.
It's incredibly
but it's allowed
complicated.
you through. Well, exactly. Trust me, I can vouch for that. Even as an instructor, I can tell you it can be very challenging for both students and even for instructors. But the reason why I asked that is I just wanted people to understand that, even if you didn't play a lot or at all, you've put a lot of, not just on the specific holes that you're doing or the specific elements that you're doing, but you actually really immersed yourself into understanding the game and how it's played and the different challenges, right? So that when you were able to then translate that onto canvas, for lack of better words, you had a general understanding about the game, or I shouldn't say general, very strong understanding of the game. So that obviously helps you to capture, the various artworks that you're doing. And really, just to go back to something that you said earlier, you want people to feel or sort of say to themselves, well, how would I play, or how did I play this hole? You want them to feel like they're kind of in that picture themselves. Even if they're not physically there, you want them to look at that and say, here I am standing on the tee at 13 or whatever of this particular course, and you want to create the illusion, if you will, that they're sort of immersed right in the project as well, right?
Right, exactly. I want the viewer to literally put themselves there, just the experience of being there. And especially if they've been there before, then it's real easy for them to just fall into it, basically.
Right, and that's why. Yeah, and that's
to depict that kind of, and I call it a metaphysical experience, basically. I mean, when you're playing golf, you're experiencing it on so many levels. I don't even know how to explain it. I just call it metaphysical. But that feeling comes across if you experience that level at the game as a discipline. And I think it's easy to relate to that just by looking at a golf hole.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Linda, because as somebody who has played a lot of golf, both privately and also with as an instructor with students, it is a very, it's almost really an emotional experience as well, because you're out there and you're in the highs and the lows of the round, and you're experiencing all kinds of both good and bad emotions depending on how the day is going. But but overall, it's a very pleasurable experience to be out on the golf course and to challenge yourself. So, to be able to capture that, right on canvas and it sort of allow the those that are seeing your work to be able to experience that as well is definitely a big plus. So I want to ask you
that early trip to Scotland was an epiphany, really. I mean, I was immersed in the history as well. My host, who was driving me around Scotland and showing me Royal Dornoch and all these places, ended up putting me in a bed and breakfast in St. Andrews and leaving me there for a week by myself. So I had a lot of time to absorb all the feelings, and you really do get a sense of history that is almost tangible over there. And that was like a real epiphany to me, I think. It changed the way I viewed the courses and what I wanted to convey. So it was really, really important, I think, for anyone to go to Scotland, Ireland. It's just, it has a different feeling over there than over here.
The game is much different for sure. I know many of the more modern courses have tried to capture certainly aesthetically the looks of some of the courses over there, but again it's different. For those that have gone over there can certainly appreciate and attest to what you're saying. And those that haven't, certainly need to make an effort to go over there. I mean, you're talking about really, in Scotland, you're talking about the birthplace of golf, and there's a lot of history and tradition there that you can't really see and appreciate, on a screen as you can when you're right there in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, obviously, I'm sure this is one of them, but I want to ask you to maybe talk about a few of your favorite memories throughout your travels. I know there's a ton of them, but give us a couple. We got time, so give us a couple. So if you want to start with what you were talking about, but just share some of the memories that you've had, with related to your art. I mean, you've done phenomenal stuff here in the U.S. You've gone overseas, of course. But what are some of the ones that really stand out? Give us a couple of examples and just tell us a little bit about that journey.
Okay. Well, I think, again, that 1988 trip to Scotland was key. And being in St. Andrews for a week by myself was quite, awakening, I'd say. A lot of time to just spend with the course, walking and absorbing the flavor of the whole place, which is significant. And anyway, when my agent came back, Bob Pringle, he was also a RNA member, and he actually took me on a midnight tour of the RNA. And 88 women were not allowed in the RNA clubhouse. But he knew the night watchman, being a member. I had a complete tour of the building. That was very cool. And also, one of his best friends was Brian Anderson, who was the key pro at Royal Troon. And both of them had extensive fishing leases, grouse shooting leases all over Scotland. So my husband and I got to enjoy quite a lot of that as well. That was pretty significant too. I also went to Pine Valley and had a tour of that clubhouse, courtesy of Ernie Ransom. That was another thing women never got to do.
Right.
And I did a painting of the 18th hole there, and I don't know. I was at Augusta so many times. I met Gene Sarazen when we did a print signing of the 15th hole at Augusta, and that was quite amazing to spend a few days with Gene Sarazen down in Florida. I mean, that really shook you when you talk to someone who's experienced what he has.
Right.
And I got to be good friends with his daughter, Mary Ann, and so we always hung out at the Masters every year. We went to all the receptions, and those were pretty memorable times for sure. So I don't know, there's a lot of things. Royal County Down, my husband and I were there for a week, and we both ride horses, so we found a Western outfitter in Ireland, and they ride up in the mountains of Mourne. So we actually rode up into the mountains of Mourne, and I could look down at the course from up there on a horse. That was pretty cool.
Now, you've also, Linda, as I mentioned in the opening introduction, that you've done a lot of personal work for some very prominent, and I named a few, Jack Nicklaus and Raymond Floyd, as a couple. What typically are and again, if you want to share some examples, it'd be great. What typically do they look for to have you do, or what has been some of the things? Is it particular golf holes that they really want to have, or
particularly Augusta.
Right, that's what I figured. But what about themselves? Do they ever want you to sort of immortalize? I mean, I know you prominently, do the golf landscapes, but do they also have you do maybe, a picture of them with their green jacket on, say, in the case of Jack Nicklaus, or has that ever been asked of you as well, or not typically?
Not really.
Usually the course.
A lot of times I'll do a drawing of them if we do a print, and I'll put the drawing of them on the print. I've done Jack Nicklaus, Stairs, but basically no. For Jack, I did a lot of his major wins, in Pebble Beach and Baltusrol and Augusta, Wingfoot, and all these different courses. I did a couple of paintings of his course, Muirfield Village.
Muirfield, yeah.
So, and mostly it's the courses that they've won. The most memorable wins.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because for a lot of these players, and obviously Reese Jones in there as well. In
he designs them.
Right, exactly. So yeah, obviously he wants to have not from a memory of playing, but as a memory of
created
being a great he created them. So why not immortalize it with a beautiful painting? But and you've obviously provided so many of your collections in things like the USGA Museum as well, and obviously the Morris Museum of Art. And again, it's typically the same thing, that certain holes, certain things. What has been, if you were to, and again, I'm not asking for a specific number, but if you were sort of in your head tally up the holes that you've done as an example, like of Augusta and that, what would be the top 3 requests for holes? And what golf course? What are the most popular holes that people want you to paint for them?
Well, at Augusta, of course, it's 10, 11, 12, 16, and 18.
Right.
St. Andrews, it's pretty much 17 and 18, though I have done the first hole and the 14th at 4th. And I've done several of the road hole, several different, versions. And Pebble Beach, again, I've done several, probably 6 or 7 paintings there. 7th hole, 5th hole, 8th hole, 9th hole, 17 and 18, several times.
So what do you, if you have a client, let's say, that wants you to paint a specific hole, and you've done that, and somebody else comes out with the same sort of request, do you do anything different? Approach it from a different? Yeah, I mean, because obviously you don't want everybody, you don't want 1,000 copies of the exact same portrayal of that golf hole. No. So how do you decide? It's kind of a
challenge to find a different view of it, but it's just a matter of working with the actual hole and different times of year, different lighting. It's just a little different angle, and so I've managed to make them all different somehow.
Now, do you sort of initiate that yourself? Then do you sort of say to them, because that you've done, and again, I'm just using this as a reference, hole 13 or 12 or 11 at Augusta, maybe you've done it 100 times, let's say. Do you normally say to them, I would like to do this a little bit different. I've done the hole and happy to do it for you, but I'd like to put a different spin on it or a different angle, that kind of thing? Or is that something that they would generally approach you and say, I know you've done this a lot, but I really love this hole. you decide what you want to do to represent that. How does that sort of work?
Usually they are pretty good about letting me decide. I have never had much trouble with that. I have to say that the people that gave me the most trouble were the pros at Augusta. They were such sticklers on everything being just exactly the way they wanted it. I never saw anybody quite so detail-oriented. So I had good training there. But when I was on the course a lot, I took pictures from '84, every year practically. So I have a huge file of pictures. And a lot of times, if there's a hole I wanted to do, if I didn't like the way, I couldn't get what I wanted out of it, maybe in May or April, I'd come back in the wintertime when the angle of the sun's different. And sometimes I get better lighting that way, and then I just add all the spring flowering, and voila, you got a new painting. So there's all kinds of ways finagling.
Well, and yeah, you've got to, as you said, you've got to be creative, and again, you don't have to name specific holes or anything like that. But has there ever been, a feature or a hole that you've done over the years that you've done so many times that really you don't really enjoy it as much anymore? And I know that's kind of an odd question, but has it ever gotten to the point where there's been some that you've just done it to death, so to speak, when you just thought, well, I don't really want to do, I know you'll do it probably, but for your clients, but has it ever been the case where you've just done it so much that it's that it's not as enjoyable anymore?
I haven't quite got to that point yet. Like I said, I got so many pictures, and each, there's so many different angles and views of a same place, and if the lighting is good, or if it's an exciting picture, maybe it's closer up, maybe it's further back, maybe it's from the back of the hole. There's just so many different angles that are possible that I haven't got to that point yet where, unless somebody asks for exactly the same view every time, like the T of 12, done that twice. So, but they've been different enough, and then, of course, the view of 12 from 11, that's another one I've done several times. But I've always been able to find a little bit different lighting, or morning light or afternoon light, or something different.
Is there a course or a hole? I'm sure there's plenty because there's so many out there. Is there one that you haven't done yet that you'd really like to do? So if somebody's listening out there and would love to accommodate you, is there one right now, a course or a hole on one of the courses that you really wanted to do but maybe you haven't had the request yet that's caught your eye over the years?
Yeah, I'd say maybe Cypress Point. I have not done Cypress Point. I feel like one day maybe. I like the what I see at Bandon Dunes. The pictures I've seen are just stunning. But I have not been there. But and there's still many courses in Scotland and Ireland that are just, I even have pictures of. I just haven't done them.
Well, you still have plenty of time. Is there a favorite? Yeah, I'm sure you will. Is there a favorite, Linda, that you have that you've done when you think of that particular painting, and you just sort of say back? I mean, obviously, I know you're proud of all of your work, but is there one or maybe even two that you've done that you just say to yourself, "Wow, I just really, knocked that one down the fairway"? What would that be?
The one I did of the 9th hole at Royal County Down I have that hanging in a very large print over my fireplace in the studio. I love that one. I love the one I did of Harbor Town, which is sort of my local course in a way.
Right.
And I love Royal Dornoch. Oof, my goodness. That place is really makes your hair stand on it, I think. and I had an experience there that sort of definitely sort of contributes to that feeling. But if you've ever been there, it's quite stunning. And my husband and I were there one evening, and I like the late afternoon light, which over there in Scotland is like 8 or 9 o'clock, you know.
Right.
So, and there was supposed to be a bagpipe concert in the town square, which is right next to the course. And I had forgotten about it, you know. And I was out all the way out, 9th hole, way out, 10th hole, and they started the concert. And honest to God, the bagpipes rolling over that course out there, it just made your hair stand up. And we took pictures. I took pictures all the way, you know, from the 10th hole all the way back and into the town square, and the concert ended when we got to the town square. So that was very cool. Very
cool. Obviously you've had a lot of great memories, not only in painting the various golf art, but obviously you've enjoyed some very extensive travel to these different places to be able to see that as well. What's coming up next for you? Is there some projects that you're currently doing or gearing up? I know you will direct them to your website, hartough.com, in a moment, but is there any special projects coming up that you'd like to share that you're working on or planning to work on that you're excited about?
Yeah, I have several proposals out right now, and basically I'm not doing tournament work anymore, but I'm doing private commissions for individuals and clubs. So I just finished one, and now, you know, I'm kind of in between. So I have some proposals out. I really don't know what's going to come through next, so I can't really say the next one. But I have a proposal out for one in Ireland, 5 in Australia, and yeah, they're just out there. There's so many courses everywhere. It's just incredible. And also one in Japan. So I don't know what I'll be doing next. I'm just kind of waiting to see.
Been some of the most interesting, I know you've talked about some of the interesting holes, but different regions on the planet that you've been to, that this has obviously allowed you to go. You mentioned Australia. You're trying to work on some things there. What's been some of the interesting areas, regions, besides obviously Scotland and that you've been to, I'm sure a number of times? Where are some interesting places that you had never been before, but maybe have had the opportunity now or in recent years to visit, that was really kind of, you thought to yourself, wow, that was, a great a great visit. Yeah. It's a great course. I know there's a ton of them, but what were some of the ones that you've been to that you really enjoyed?
Well, I went to Hong Kong and photographed about 4 courses there. One was in China. That was quite an experience. So I don't know. I haven't been to Australia. I'd like to go, but I haven't been there. And Japan, I'd love to go, but I haven't. I've been in the airport, but I haven't been in Japan. So I don't know. Well, Narita counts, but that's as far as I've gotten in Japan. But I really like Scotland and Ireland. I used to go every year practically, so I'm most familiar with them and like them. I have friends over there, and places to visit for besides just going to golf courses, and it's really very rewarding to go over there.
If you had to and this is just a hypothetical, of course, but
Okay.
if you had, let's say you had 500 paintings and you could only keep one, just for room, you've run out of room, you've got nowhere to store it, but one picture, one painting, what would it be?
Gosh. I don't have a single golf painting here. I sold every single one of them. I have prints. I love my prints. I keep them as my memory. I have them hanging all over my studio. Now, I do have some originals that are not golf, that I have done over the years that I kept. But all the golf ones are in somebody else's house.
If you, let me rephrase that then, since you've obviously sold them all. If you had the opportunity to paint for yourself one more painting of a golf course, hole, what have you, what would it be? What would be the one that you would most likely want to do for yourself?
Wow. Well, I really wish I had the Royal Dornick painting I did. I don't have it, but I love that painting. That would be the one that I would want, I think.
Very interesting. I think for somebody like yourself that has done so much, I know that there's really a wealth of work to draw from, and I'm sure there's so many interesting holes and courses and things that you've seen over the years. So I'm sure it would be very difficult to really just settle on one. But I think every artist probably has one favorite moment in their career that they really think, wow, this just really hit it out of the park, so to speak, or just really felt whatever the energy, if you will. And it's interesting. So I think what you do is very fascinating, and obviously you have an incredible talent, to be able to do that. I mean, anybody can splash some paint around and things and call it whatever they want, but to do what you do for as long as you have, obviously you're very, very talented and obviously very passionate about what you do. And you've been
definitely
rewarded and recognized for that. And it's nice that in addition to the work that you have to do, that you've had the opportunity to be able to travel and see so many great places. And I think that's been. Is there anything else, other than the golf landscaping in golf that has piqued your interest that you would love to paint? Is there anything else beside the golf courses? I know you've probably done some clubhouses and things too that were out of the ordinary. But is there any other part of golf, the golfing art world, that has piqued your interest over the years?
Not really. I mean, I just love the landscape mostly. I mean, if there's a great clubhouse, I'll try to work that into the painting. And in many cases, that happens,
Mm-hmm.
But if it's an ugly clubhouse, then I make darn sure I pick something else. I'll never forget when I was at Carnoustie, and it was before they built the new clubhouse. And I don't know if you remember what the old one looked like, but it was ugly. It was like a 1960 box. And there was no way that was going to be in that painting for me. No way. So I had to find a view that it wasn't in. And at that time, I didn't know what the new one was going to look like, so I didn't know if it would be any better. So that worked for me.
Right. So obviously, every artist has their limitations and what they'll put on canvas.
And even when I'm painting St. Andrews now, I eliminate a lot of stuff. Like light poles and I don't know.
Well, sure.
All their exterior plumbing and
Right.
and
I think, is this the right word? Yeah, it becomes more of an abstract. Is that the right word?
Kind of. It just becomes semi-invisible.
Right.
Even like if you're painting like when I did the 9th hole at Pebble Beach, there's a house that sits right behind 10, and it's like a light, it's just there.
Right. Yeah.
But in certain times of day, it disappears. Depends on the values that you paint it, whether it shows up or not. So it's sort of there, but not. And I'm good at that. I can make things disappear. And they're there, if they say, oh, she painted that. No, there it is,
Right.
And you know how
very
people
subtly,
are,
Right. It's subtle, but it's there.
It's there. It's
yeah.
just there, period. But you don't see it unless you're looking for it. And
right.
that's kind of
exactly.
the way I treat things like that. It's just basically a non-element.
Well, it's not a focal point of the picture. I mean, they're not, you're not painting that hole for the light post or for the sign or for,
right,
a clubhouse that is not aesthetically appealing. People are not wanting to see. They want to see. Right,
I don't
exactly.
want
it takes
anything
away
to
from,
distract from what I want you to see.
Right.
And that's the difference from just painting every single thing that's in the scene and editing it so that I make you see what I want you to see. It's not like just a complete copy of what's there. And speaking of the 9th hole of Pebble Beach, next week is the Women's Open, U.S. Open.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And we are going to be giving away a limited edition print of the 9th hole of Pebble Beach with our Pick the Winner contest.
Very good. How can people? How can they? So let's give them your website so they can go on and look at more information. So for those that would like to learn a little bit more about what we're talking about here, because obviously we're all visual people and we like to look at some great artwork. And Linda has plenty of it all over her website. So if you go to www.hartough, and it's spelled HARTOUGH.com, you can find a lot of good information there, including some originals and some in process. And you can find out much about her as well. And also, I guess if they're interested in prints as well, you've got some of that there, and they can reach out to you. And if they're interested in purchasing some prints, I would imagine, correct?
We do all kinds of custom sizes. Pretty much whatever you want, we can make it. So, but
exactly.
If you sign up for the email, we do these Pick the Winner emails pretty much most of the major tournaments, and we give away a print to people that pick the winner. So next week is a big one.
Right.
So.
And just to give the folks a little bit of heads up, they'll see this when they go to the website right at the top on the banner. You can get 10% off your first order and chances to win a print through our Pick the Winner challenge when you sign up for their newsletter. And you can also buy one, get one free on selected items, of course. And the sale through July 5th, 25% off plus free shipping. So be sure you use promo code July4-25. So that's all there and ready for those of you to sign up for the newsletter and get your chance to win, or potentially a chance to win one of Linda's prints. And
I think
Linda's
we have a lot of people that really enjoy that. So it's really nice. It's just kind of fun, for everybody.
Exactly. So lots of great information there. You can review a lot of the catalogs that she's got, U.S. courses, again, St. Andrews overseas. You can see that. And also some note cards, open editions, books and posters, all kinds of great things that you can see there as well. But go to hartough.com is the website. Linda, I want to thank you as always. I really enjoy having you on. You've been on now for a number of seasons, and actually twice the last couple of seasons you've come on. I really enjoy our conversations, and I really appreciate you giving up your time.
I enjoy your questions. I enjoy talking to you, talk about some different things, and it's really great.
Right. And I think I asked you this the last time, but just to sort of confirm, are you going to the Golf Heritage Society National Convention this year that's going to be taking place October 11th to 14th? And it's going to be held at the Embassy
Kentucky?
Suite Hotel. Yes.
Probably
are you
not,
making it this year?
I'm going to go probably next year. I believe it's at Pinehurst, maybe, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I think so. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but
that's within
and
driving
also I want,
range.
right,
me.
there you go. Yeah, a little. I don't blame you. Also, you're one of the founding trustees of the Academy of Golf Art, and their website is academyofgolfart.org. So you can go and find more information about that. And they're always they're welcoming new members and things like that. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to academyofgolfart.org for more information there. But make sure that you go to Linda's website, hartough.com. Linda, thank you very much for, again, spending some time with me. It's always a pleasure. And I look forward to having you back on a future show.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. You have a great evening and a great happy 4th of July. I hope you have a great weekend and enjoy Pebble Beach and the U.S. Women's Open.
I will. I can't wait. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Good night. All right. That was world-renowned golf landscape painter Linda Hartough spending some time with me talking about what she does and just sharing some fond memories. She's definitely a great artist, and I would strongly urge you to not only check out her website at hartough.com, and that is HARTOUGH, of course, .com, and you can check out a lot of her work, both the paintings, and obviously it's available, many of them are available in print, so you can certainly purchase there. And if you sign up for her newsletter, you can get a chance to win through their Pick the Winner contest and win one of the prints. So that's always interesting. They do that, as she mentioned, through all the major tournaments. So it's something that people enjoy. And again, the work that she does is just phenomenal. So, and maybe if you're somebody that's looking to start your own collection of great golf landscape painting, you may want to reach out to her. You can do that through the website as well at hartough.com. So definitely check it out. And on that note, I want to thank everybody. And let me just remind you as well that we will have a show next week, next Thursday. But the following week I'll be away, so there'll be no shows. And there is no Women of Golf next Tuesday because it's the 4th of July, so I'll be celebrating with the rest of you. And but on that note, thank you, and I will see you next time here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody, and happy 4th. Everyone be safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.